You're digging through your local library's archives trying to find out if your cousin was right and your great-great-great-uncle really was a Duke of the Lost Kingdom of Namek, where you stumble across a dusty box full of old letters. You start to read and find that it's a series of correspondences between two brothers from the year 1861, describing what life was like during the Civil War. Who cares about great-uncle whoever? This is way more interesting. What follows is a recreation of what this conversation might have been like. Dear Brother South, as I write this letter, the war wages on. I don't know how we got to this point. Brother against brother, father against son. In our last correspondence, we decided to keep each other updated on the daily happenings in our part of the country. Here in the North, times are hard, but we are surviving. The Civil War has torn this nation into two, and I feel as if you are in an entirely different country down there in the South. I just hope that the war ends soon, so that life can go back to normal, and we can see each other again. As I'm sure you remember, this Civil War started when South Carolina seceded from the Union last December in 1860. Then, a year later in April 1861, Virginia followed South Carolina and seceded from the North. This was caused by the firing on Fort Sumter and President Lincoln calling for 75,000 troops to take back the fort and disband the South Carolina militia. I don't have to remind you what happened next, as we're both living through the consequences right now. Up here in the North, this war has divided the community. I'm sure it's the same in your part of the country. People have to choose a side based on their beliefs. Not everyone agrees on the issues of war. Just yesterday, I got in an argument with my neighbor about the actions of the South. He claimed they had a right to secede from the ways of the North, and I disagreed. We got into an argument and punches were thrown. Sadly, this is not all that uncommon in this day and age. Regardless of where you live, differences of opinion always creep up and seem to lead to fisticuffs more often than not. On the other side of my farm is a family who considers themselves pacifists. They state their religious beliefs forbid them from taking sides, but instead dictate they should be kind to one another and allow for God to judge what is just. I find myself turning to religion more and more during this time. The church congregation grows as we all look for answers on how to end this civil war and return the country to some sort of normalcy. Please write back soon with updates about how you and your family are managing in these trying times. I eagerly await to hear about life in the South. Dear Brother North, I appreciated your letter and updates from your life in the upper states. Things here are similar to how you described them in the North. Communities are torn, and not everyone agrees with the secession in this part of the country. But our way of life was threatened. Many families support the government in the South because they do not want their way of life changed. Battles spontaneously breaking out between the armies is common down here in the South, as I am sure happens up in the North on occasion. It seems that we need to be ready for anything at all times. I've not joined the Confederate Army due to my old age and injured leg, but it is very difficult to carry out daily business with skirmishes happening on our farmland, and we are far from the only ones whose homelands have become battlegrounds. My neighbors and people all across the country have to flee for their lives as the two armies clash in cities, villages, and farms. It's a dangerous time to be a civilian. As in the North, all of our resources are going to fund the war. The food we grow on the farm gets collected and shipped out to soldiers on the front line. The wool we shear gets made into uniforms and sent to our soldiers across the country. The government says we will get paid for our goods, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. The government seems to believe that we are not as important as the war. I wonder if you're running into the same struggles in the North. I'm eager to hear back from you with updates on how the rest of your family is coping. Please write soon. Dear Brother South, just as the citizens of the South are struggling, the same can be said of average citizens in the North. Our food and goods go directly to the war effort. Just as you said, the government claims they'll provide restitution, but we have yet to see a penny. I will say that industrial factories and large businesses concerned seem to be doing well, since they are larger entities and vital to the war effort. The government wants to keep them happy and continually producing supplies. One of my friends in town who owns a textile mill is working all the time and making good money too, though he complains to me that the price of commodities has gone sky high. I too can barely afford necessities such as food we don't grow on the farm or candle wax. The military may be stocked with supplies, but the average person can't afford basic goods anymore. Furthermore, as you discussed in your last letter, the Civil War is damaging property all around the country, It's not just the military's forts and assets that are being affected, but the average citizen's homes and places of business. Just the other day, our granary was destroyed by a rogue cannonball from the battle across the river, and as the army retreats, they destroy any valuable assets or buildings that might be beneficial for the other side. This includes mills and factories, as well as food storage facilities. We're starving, and the army is destroying extra food stores to prevent the opposing forces from having access to them. Just give the food to the average citizen. This is lunacy. Not only are we suffering from battles and destruction of property, but both northern and southern governments are taking our horses and cattle. The horses are used for the cavalry and by officers. The cattle are used to haul heavy cannons and equipment. But where does that leave us? We no longer have any draft animals, which makes farming and traveling so much harder. I can only imagine how things are in the South. From what I hear, there are more battles being fought down there. That must mean more loss of property. Please let me know how your wife and daughters are faring. Stay safe. Dear Brother North, the average citizen is most definitely being harmed by the property loss and damages here in the South. We understand there is a war going on, but the disregard for people's property and lives by the government and the armies is appalling. All my sons have been enlisted in the army, and my wife and daughters have now taken care over all the responsibilities of the household and the workplace. My wife manages the farm, handling the business transactions and distribution of our crops to buyers. My daughters are out in the field every day harvesting crops and performing the labor that was normally reserved for my sons. The female citizens during this time have much more responsibility. It's disconcerting to me that they have no right to vote, even though they are helping keep our way of life together. I know that in the North this is also the case. After all over the average citizen's life will have to change. Everyone should have the right to vote, regardless of gender. Hopefully someday we'll get there. It is extremely common for average citizens to be uprooted and have to relocate because of battles occurring on their land. Just the other day, our neighbors had to pack everything they could carry into a wagon and move out west to try and start over. This isn't the first family I've known to do this, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Every time there's a battle, it's the average citizen who loses their land and the house. We are still able to farm and survive on our land, but who knows how long that will last. Without the females in the family, there would be no way to carry on. They've taken over almost every responsibility outside of fighting in the army. Life is extremely difficult right now in the South, and I know that in the North things are starting to look more promising. I look forward to your next letter. Hopefully you have some good news. Dear Brother South, it's happened. I know you wanted good news, but it's in short supply during the Civil War. Like so many other families, we've lost a family member to the war. One of my sons was fighting in the South and was killed in a battle. It is terrible news for anyone to receive, but it is all too common these days. Every family has been touched negatively by the war in some way. We've lost a son, others have lost fathers, brothers, or husbands. Loss is all too common. I've heard that 1 in 5 men who fought for the South have died in battle. I pray for your family every night before bed in hopes you do not lose anyone. But I know the reality of living during this time is that we'll all likely lose someone we care about. Here in the North, we're trying to stay busy at nights to keep our minds off the war. We tell stories about past adventures and tales of the Wild West. Sometimes we don't have wood for the fireplace, so we have to burn anything we can find. We have already lost a table and some chairs to the fire that keeps us warm at night. The winters have been brutal, so we have to find ways to keep the house heated. I've taken out my old banjo to play and sing songs to the family. It helps keep our minds off the hardships during the Civil War. I just hope that things get better soon. I really would hate to have to throw my instrument into the fire as kindling. I hope the weather in the South is warmer. Give my love to the family. Dear Brother North, we are all grief-stricken over the loss of your son. I know words are meaningless in times like these, but I am sorry. The nights are still warm in the South, but we will have frost soon. I too have taken to music again, playing the fiddle and singing along with the family to keep busy. We also pick up a newspaper whenever a new issue is printed. It's a way to find out what's happening across this divided country, and sometimes there are stories of things outside the war, which is nice. It's amazing how the use of pictures and newspapers has changed everything. The newspaper reports on the events of a battle, and the pictures allow us to see the images from the battlefield. It is frightening to think that in one of those photographs I might see someone I know. This Civil War is a terrible time. It's a dangerous time to be a soldier and a tumultuous time to be an average citizen. We never know what will happen from day to day. Resources are going to the war effort with no remuneration paid to the average citizens who are providing them. Battles can destroy your entire home at any time. Necessities are too expensive for the average person to buy. It seems it's difficult to get by in the South and in the North. Sometimes during the war, the average person gets forgotten and left behind. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the other side. We hope that this reenactment gave you a unique perspective into the life of an average citizen during the Civil War. Here at the Infographics Show, we know that life during tumultuous times can be unsure and a bit scary. That's why it's important to understand past events and perspectives to learn and be better prepared for the future. If you want to learn more about what life might have been like for people in the past, check out our video Why Life During the Dark Ages Sucked. Or if you want to see more current perspective, watch our video What Is It Really Like Living in North Korea? Either way, learning about the lives of others is a great way to be prepared for what the future may hold. Thanks for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.